Good morning, Vamoose. How we doing this morning? This is your host, Guy Moose, going to try to wake you up a little bit this morning. Honestly, I'm not quite awake yet, but I'm getting there, okay? And, hey, speaking of waking up, have you ever tried to wake somebody up, maybe on a Facebook debate? Yeah, it's probably not very nice to call it a debate because debates are typically nice, controlled little discussions. We both try to exchange and come to a better understanding of the truth. But Facebook debates are not that. Typically, they just turn into craziness where you're like, I'm going to tell these people that there's no way you could actually believe this and be a normal, sane human being. And they're going to write back in like manner, and it will descend into name-calling and yelling and meme wars and link wars, and everybody's writing in all caps, and it's just insanity to the nth degree. And what really happens in Facebook debates? What really happens? I'll tell you what happens. Nothing. Nothing happens other than hurting people's feelings and making people angry and making people dig the feet in, or the heels in even more, and not move a budge on this particular topic. Yeah. I've very rarely ever seen anyone say, oh, yeah, thank you so much for engaging in this Facebook debate. I now understand the truth so much better. No, they don't. They're like, you stupid idiot, I can't believe you'd ever say that. How could you think that? Believe you're crazy. Yeah, that's usually what ends up happening at the very end when the dust settles. You just both think each other crazy, you unfriend each other, and you never talk to each other again, or whatever. Until the next Facebook debate. So, I'm going to maybe put a little thought in your brain here that might help you out. Next time you go to do this, why don't we do what I actually just saw a gentleman by the name of Chris Pratt do at the MTV Awards. Yeah, so Chris Pratt is a movie actor. This guy is, been on various movies, pretty popular, and he gets up to the MTV Awards. He's getting an award, and he makes like 2 or 3 really bold statements. And I've heard, he was a Christian or had some sort of faith or whatever, and be that as it may, he gets up and makes some very bold statements to a crowd of people that typically aren't very friendly to those kinds of things. All right, he says, God is real, you have a soul, you need to pray. I mean, he's making these very clear Christian statements in front of a crowd that typically isn't super pro-Christian, let me put it that way. Number one, he gets a pretty good reception from these people, which I find surprising, but it's the way he goes about it. He gives like, oh, here's Chris Pratt's like 9 roles. You can watch the video yourself. But the idea is he's packaging those really bold statements in between several other statements. He says several things first. He compliments some people. He, makes a couple funny statements. He has a little pot of humor in there, but he's using humor. He's using other things, and he kind of sandwiches these bold statements, these somewhat controversial statements in between all these other statements. And then he tells us what he's doing. Now, he doesn't say, this is what I'm doing. He does it much more subtly than that. He just says, here's one of my rules. When you give a dog medicine, you package it, you wrap it up in a little bit of meat, and then he just thinks he's eating meat, but he's actually getting his medicine. Yeah, that's what Chris Pratt just did. The idea is that if you're going to try to convince somebody of the truth, you can't just scream and yell at them. You can't just, a lot of times, beat them over the head with it. They're going to reject it, not because it's true, but because it's the way you presented it to them. One of these famous quotes, what is it, Zig Ziglar, I think, and, I don't know, Zig Ziglar, somebody used to say something like this: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You're probably not going to get anybody to listen to you if you're packaging what you have to say in a harsh, demeaning, arrogant way. They're going to turn you off before they ever even hear what kind of statement you're going to make, just by your attitude. And the point is you got to change the way you're going to present yourself. You got to package it in an attractive sort of way. It doesn't mean you water down the truth. It just means that you as a person show genuinely how much you care for them first. You know, a lot of times you're probably gonna have to show these people friendliness and friendship before you ever can speak to them and get them to hear you. And you know, talking about Christian and talking about, you know, the prime example for being a Christian is Jesus Christ himself. And even a lot of things and a lot of sermons he gave, he just wrapped up in stories, just told a story. You know, even his own followers, his disciples came later and were like, what were you talking about back there? And he had to kind of break it down for them. So he wasn't just always clobbering people over the head. He would clobber the people who should have known better over the head. You know, the trained preachers and teachers of that day. He got pretty upset at them because they studied the scriptures for hours on end, and they totally twisted it to just mean what they wanted it to mean. That's who he's angry, you know, with. But the other people who he's trying to give some medicine to, who really needed the medicine and would be open to the medicine, he knew he still had to package it in some way where they would take it in. All right, so listen, next time you go get in one of those debates, yeah, you know, even if you're talking to your spouse, and you know at that point where it's going to just go from a nice, friendly little discussion to the knockdown, drag out, whether it's truly physical or not, you know what's happening. You know, you're putting up your dukes, she's putting up her dukes, and man, you're going to go at it. Before you go there, think, how can I do this in such a way that it'll be a little bit more palatable? Yes, indeed. Let's try this, guys. Let's use our brains, use our noggins for more than just a hat rack, and let's try to do our best to present these things in a nicer, better, friendlier way so that they will be received and truly be used to change someone and not just make them more stubborn and more entrenched in their own beliefs. Ta-da! Now, you guys have a great day. Vamoose!